Right, so today I've got to frag some mushrooms out of the 250 marine tank. A couple of these mushrooms are going to a customer this weekend. Biggest problem that I've got is I have to frag them and I have to leave the rock in the tank. In an ideal situation, if you're fragging mushrooms, you just want to take the rock out that they're attached to, chisel about 10 mil underneath the foot. Marine rock's quite brittle, so it easily comes away. Hammer and chisel, just knock it off. From there, you can pretty much just glue that rock to a frag plug or to another piece of rock or wherever you want it to go. With mushrooms, obviously you cannot glue their foot to a frag plug because of the slime coat, so they need to latch on and do their own thing and do it in their own time. They're not quite like NEMs, they won't obviously latch on with their foot after maybe a minute, 2 minutes of holding them still. It will take a couple of days or a couple of weeks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to frag, or an easy way to frag the mushroom in the tank, and also a second tip of once we've got everything set up, I'm going to show you how you kind of speed the process up a little bit of getting the foot to latch on. So all we're going to use today is a couple of things, really easy. A container that's going to hold the frag basket that we made. If you haven't seen already, it's just a quick makeshift basket that I've made with stuff I had lying around in the tank room. If you haven't seen the video yet, I'll stick a link up here, or maybe up here, just to show you this quick 5-10 minute project just to help you build that. Stainless steel knife, and then another container which is going to have some salt water in, which the mushrooms go into while we're doing everything else, and some alpha grog. Alpha grog, again, if you're in the marine, if you're more in the sort of salty side of the hobby, you may not know what alpha grog is, or you may not have used it before, but it's a very cheap media that's used quite often in fresh water. Really porous, but the good thing about it is it's heavy enough not to move around in your flow, but it's light enough not to hurt the mushroom, and I'll show you what we're going to use that for. Let's get the mushrooms off. Okay, so fragging the mushrooms, nice and simple. Flow's completely turned off, so return pump, the outlet's turned off, wave makers are turned off. Doing it in the dark or before the lights come on because the mushrooms retract, so a little bit easier to get to the foot. All we're going to use is a simple stainless steel butter knife. Okay, obviously make sure it's clean, hands are clean. And all you're going to do is just pry the foot away. We get to one of the feet, just there, and again just gentle with these because they're going to a customer. You can just cut these away, simple enough. Because these are going to a customer in a couple of days, I just want to try and keep the foot intact as much as possible. Like I said, take your time. Yeah, obviously it's latched on, you don't want to be too rough with it, and just slowly peel the foot away. Now mushrooms, I could probably bash this with a hammer and it would shrug it off and grow back. Because it's going into a customer's tank in 2 or 3 days time, I just want to keep it as healthy as possible. So you don't really want to use a razor blade because these guys are so soft, it would just cut them. It would just cut the foot. We just keep prying a little bit at a time, and eventually it will start to let go. So stainless steel knife. As you can see, it's starting to, well, I hope you can see it on the camera, the foot's starting to come away. There we go. So like I said, take your time, that's it, that's pretty much it fragged. Assume you can see that. And then what we do is we just stick that into the frag basket that we made earlier. Take your time, guys. Like I said, there's no rush, no panic. If you're not too worried about keeping the foot, it will grow back anyway. Obviously you can take a razor blade and just cut it straight off. But as I mentioned, because that's going into a customer's tank in a couple of days, I just wanted to keep the foot intact and just get it latching onto its new bit of rock quicker over the next 2-3 days. Right, now we've got the mushrooms off. So we've got the 2 containers on each end filled with water, as you can see. Mushrooms on one end, you only need a couple about 10-20 ml of water in there, and then this one we're going to fill up quite a bit. Now this container here needs to be deep enough to take your frag basket, but also the water level be high enough for the rock plus the mushroom to sit underneath. So like I said, this basket is maybe what, about 150 ml high, so obviously the water's filled to about 100 ml high. So what we're now going to do is, and this is the key thing with the alpha grog that we've got, is I've chosen the 3 larger bits that I want the mushroom to latch onto. Okay, so they're going to go in. I'm just going to spread them out evenly and separate like that. Okay, so that is the 3 larger rocks, larger bits of alpha grog that I'm going to use for the mushrooms to attach their feet to. Now around them rocks, what you want to do is just line it and make it as compact as possible with smaller bits. Now it doesn't have to be alpha grog. Obviously, if you've got more marine rock that you can break up, chisel away it, hit it with a hammer, you can do that. I've always got bags and bags of this stuff, so I always use it. So yeah, just like I said, put the other rocks. Now the reason you're putting the big ones in the middle and the rest around the edge, because what you don't want to do is you want to force that mushroom to latch onto them larger rocks. So what you're going to do is kind of just create sort of like a bowl, so they've got nowhere else to go. They're not going to slide or slip down the edges like that. And it's like putting together a bit of a puzzle, really. Put that one there. Like that, and then put a divide there, that'll work fine. Another divide there, so we'll get that mushroom down in between. So that's pretty much all you're going to do. So like I said, you've got the 3 main rocks in the middle or at the very bottom, and then you sort of just creating dividers with the other rocks. So you've still got other rocks in there if it does decide to move, because obviously when the mushroom's in the tank, the mushroom is going to move or try and get top side of where the light is, so it may move. So you've then at least got other rock in there that it can latch onto. I've got to hang this because ideally, again, if you can put this down on the sand bed, you can do where there's minimal flow. But obviously I haven't got much open sand bed in my tank, so I need to hang it on the glass. So now that's pretty much done. We're going to push this or drop this into the bowl with the water, with the salt water in. So it's just going to sit there like that. Okay. Obviously, just remember the water that's in this bowl and the water that the mushrooms are sitting in, make sure it's out of the tank. Okay. Don't use fresh or new water. So just another thing as well, when you're fragging mushrooms, okay, you will get a pungent smell. It's absolutely normal, it's absolutely fine. So the 3 mushrooms that we've got here now, all you're going to do is just take them out, nice and easy, and we're just going to place them in them little guides like that. So there's one. So you're on purposely trying to make sure the foot is facing down. Quite a heavy one. Facing down towards the large rocks that you've placed in there for them to latch onto. So there's number 2, nice and comfortable. Okay, and there's number 3. Push that down there like that. Okay, so you should be able to see that now. You got 1, 2, 3. They're sat down on the larger rocks that I placed at the very bottom. They're not going to go anywhere. Like I said, they're going to be facing up towards the lights. They're not going to try and move, or touch wood, they're not going to try and move. And that's pretty much it. So what we can now do is hang this back in the tank and then give it, so it depends how you're done. As long as you've not been too brutal and not caused any sort of damage to the foot, you may be looking at about a week for the foot to latch on. But one thing you can do, and this is again why I use the alpha grog, is you can speed up that process a little bit. Now this will only work if you've not damaged the foot too much while fragging it. Now, you don't need to panic. Like I said, you can cut these guys up and they're pretty much grow back. You could smash them with a hammer, they'll shrug it off and grow back twice the size. The reason I use this alpha grog, and you can even do this in the tank if you wanted to, but obviously these are going into a customer's tank, so I can't, so obviously I need it on a separate rock, is because this is quite light, okay, it's heavy enough not to be blown around the tank from your flow, okay, but it's light enough where it's not going to damage the mushroom themselves. So all you need to do, grab yourself 3 small bits, and like I said, nothing too major. Just going to rinse that off. Now the reason they need to be small bits is because what you want is you want the mushroom to still see a little bit of light, just so it doesn't try to move. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to pop that gently on the top. Now like I said, as long as that foot isn't too damaged, place that one there, again just gentle on the top. And that one there again, just nice and gentle so it doesn't move. Okay, so hopefully it's clear enough on the camera. The rock is covering it, maybe about a quarter or half of it. There's still enough light getting through to it, so it's not going to try and move. But then what that will then do is obviously just keep it in place and weigh it down and sort of force its foot to latch onto the rock that you're choosing. So like I said, you can do this. Like I said, I use alpha grog because it's not very dense, so it's light, but it's heavy enough not to get blown around your tank. So if you wanted to, obviously if you've got a high flow tank and you're trying to put a mushroom onto a rock, obviously what that rock then allows you to do is just weigh it down, so you can pretty much choose where that mushroom's going to sit. So right, let's get this back in the tank just to let them settle. So there we go. Hook that back on there, nice and slow. Like I said, I have to hang mine because there's just not much sand bed for me to put a basket down at the bottom of the tank. And that's it. Give them, like I said, if you haven't damaged the foot too much, 2 or 3 days and they'll pretty much latch on and pretty much dictate where they're going to go. But if the foot did take a bit of a battering, or obviously you've cut them, they're going to take a little bit of time to heal. So you can see them in there, look, pretty much sat there comfortable, not blowing around. Like I said, if you're not going to weigh them down with a rock, just leave them in there. As long as it's in a low flow area where they're sitting comfortably on the rock themselves, they're going to latch onto something eventually. Like I say, it just literally comes down to whether you destroyed the foot or not. Even if you do, guys, don't panic. Like these things are indestructible and they will pretty much grow in mud. You can cut these guys in half and they grow back a couple weeks, couple months, depending on how good your water is. But that's it, pretty much done. They start latching on over the next few days now, and then getting down into their new home. So that's pretty much it for this week. Like I said, I just wanted to, over the last 2 videos that I've done, I had to get these mushrooms out, I had to get them fragged out of the 250 as they're going to a new tank, new customer this weekend. Had to make the makeshift frag box just to put them in. So again, if you take a look at that video that I linked earlier, it will show you how to make the frag box. Literally egg crate, zip ties, stuff you usually have lying around as a fish keeper. If you haven't already, guys, hit the subscribe button. There's going to be a lot going on over the next few weeks. Until then, see you next time.